everyone, this is Bev from Art by Bedell, and I was just playing around making my own modeling paste, and I thought, maybe I should video this. Maybe you guys would be interested in seeing what I'm doing. And I'm going to show it to you and give you my honest, raw opinion of the whole thing. So what I have bought to do is to make my modeling paste is plaster of Paris. I went to Michael's and this was the smallest that they had. This is 4 pounds of plaster of Paris. I'm not sure, but what I'm going to have to find another way to use this because I'll never make this much modeling paste, I don't believe. So anyhow, I have that, and then I have my white gesso. You could use white acrylic paint also. Instead of plaster of Paris, I understand, I have not done it, but I understand you can use baking soda, bicarbonate of soda. I think that's baking soda. You could also use some sand, but your sand is going to make it gritty. So I have this jar, and it says modeling paste because it was an empty jar. And I decided to first put in my plaster of Paris. Now, the video I was watching, it says to do it 50-50. So I put in 2 jars like this of plaster of Paris. And then, and I was working in a different container at the time too. And then I added 2 jars, the same, of gesso. Oh my gosh, guys, it's not 50-50. You have to add more gesso than that. So it's more like 3-2, 3-2, that type of thing. 3 gesso, 2 plaster of Paris. So I ended up pouring it into this jar because I had gesso in this jar, and I mixed it up. Well, I was quite disappointed because I couldn't get it mixed up very smoothly. Now, I think one of my first mistakes was I should have taken my gesso and slowly added in plaster of Paris. Now that would make more sense, right? So mine almost looks like it has cracked eggshells in it. It's rather lumpy. So I was pretty disappointed because, I really wanted store-bought in a handmade. Anyhow, here I have it, and it is rather lumpy. And I thought, okay, so what am I going to do here with this lumpy stuff? So I have a piece of deli paper, and I'm just going to take some. And actually, the video showed them using about 2 tablespoons of gesso and 2 tablespoons of plaster of Paris. Now, if you take it and you just do it with that small of an amount, yes, you can get it pretty smooth. Will it be still as smooth and light and airy as what Liquitex or Golden is? Nope, I don't think so. It's not going to be the same consistency. Now, maybe if you worked and worked and worked. I'm not that patient of a girl to work and work and work, but this has something about it that I do kind of like. I'm not unhappy. Now, I'm quite surprised that I ended up making this much. I'll use it over time, but I would start out with far less smaller mixture to be sure that it's something you like rather than making this much and then wasting it. Now I have it here, and it's not too bad. What I did was I took it, and I have my journal page that I'm working on here. I spread some on my journal, and that's really not bad at all. Now, if you leave it fairly lumpy, you can get this effect here, right there. And that's got some extra lumps in it, but that's just some added texture. And what I did was I used the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous collection. It's THMS 079. That's the name, that's the number on the stencil. And I just put it on this piece of paper, and I like that. Now, am I going to be happy with every stencil I use if it's going to have that texture in it? Maybe not. I don't know. Time will tell. So the next thing that I decided to do was to take this texture paste, and for our lesson, we were using, was it sand? It was some beads. Anyhow, I'm going to take this. Now this is the mixture that I've mixed up with the gesso and with the plaster of Paris. The video showed just using gesso. I have so much of this mixture, I'm just going to use this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wonder beads. Now these are Susie Weinberg's wonder beads. They're clear beads. They're just mini beads like a micro bead. You can buy micro beads pretty much anywhere, I think. At least I know you can get them, I'm pretty sure, like in your specialty scrapbook stores and stuff. I have lots of different products, because I used to do classes and we would teach the newest thing that came into the shop. And when the next newest thing came along, of course, this got put on the back burner. So anyhow, I have lots of product. So I'm going to just dump in some beads, about that many, and then I'm going to mix this up. And I'm going to make a texture, a really nice texture with beads. Now you could use sand, beads, sand, what else can you use? Eggshells. You don't have to do eggshells. You could just use plaster of Paris and not mix it up. Anyhow, I've made now a jar of this that I can use in my mixed media projects and have this all made up just like that. Now, did I say that the reason why I wanted to make and have a good amount of this on hand is because if I'm working on a project and I want to do something with modeling paste, I don't want to have to get out my plaster of Paris and my gesso and make some. I want it to be ready. I want it to be ready to go. So I now have, and I'll label this jar as dimensional beads, and I have that also. Now, you know, be creative with what you put in it to make it, you know, extra texture. Here's what the beads look like on the paper here. And I think that adds some pretty cool texture. Now, when this is all dry, I'm going to take some inks. I'm not sure, distress inks, acrylic inks, probably, most certainly acrylic inks. A little iffy on the distress inks, although I really would like to try some re-inkers to my vintage photo ink pad and see if I can't get some vintage type looking bead mixture down here, or even some of this mixture mixed up with the re-inker so that I have vintage to put on my stencil. I think I will try that. You know what? Let me just go get my re-inker. Okay, so I'm going to take in this container here a little bit of my paste that I made. And let's just start with that much. My response usually is, oh, well, more. Let's make more, but let's not. I have my Distress Oxide Vintage Photo Re-Inker, and I want to add very little to this. So I'm going to do 2 drops. Let's see what that does. Now, this is probably maybe 2 tablespoons of the modeling paste with 2 drops of Vintage Photo Re-Inker. So this is pretty light. I want it to be a little darker. So I'm going to add 1, 2 more. I do believe, if I remember right, the ink in that will dry lighter. So, you know, I'm going to go a little darker here than what the finished product is that I want. So there, let's go with 2 more. 1, 2. That is a really nice, pretty color. I just want it to be a little bit darker. I'm going to go with 2 more. And if I do 4, then I will have gone too far. So I'm being very careful not to say, okay, just add 4. So I think that's a nice color. What do you think? 2 more. I think 3 went in. Well, mixing this up like this is making it nice and smooth. So now let's take our stencil and get a piece of paper. I have some sheet music here. And let's put our stencil down on our paper and get ourselves some of our handmade modeling paste that's been colored. And you see it spreads on really nice. For drying time, I believe this is going to take longer to dry than that nice airy modeling paste that you get from Golden. Okay, so I do like that color. Let's pull this up. And I think when I go to add this to a grungy journal, that I'm really going to like that. So you can color it, and the Distress Oxide ink refills do work. I probably would recommend using plain Distress ink refills, not the oxide. I just wonder if the color wouldn't be a little darker. So now I need to take that and save it. And I just, when I get little containers like this, I just save them, because you never know when you might save something in a small amount, right? So I'll just put this in here. I actually should make more of it, but I'm going to wait for the other to dry and see just exactly how it turns out, whether I want to try it with the Distress inks or whether I need to add more, or whether this is perfect. And if it's perfect, then I'll just make more of it just the way I did this. But there we go. Put the lid on there so it doesn't dry out. And I'll have that for future use. So I have made some colored, I have made some textured beads, and I have made myself a pot of modeling paste. There we go. So give it a try, guys. See what you think of it. Make smaller amount to start with in case you don't like it. I do like it. It will take a little monkeying with to get it smooth. It will probably never be light like Golden's is. Golden's is just really nice and light and airy. If you haven't ever tried Golden's, give it a try. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will try to remember to get back to you with how I do with adding some ink to that page in the journal where I'm letting it all dry, and to how the texture on the stencil turns out colored and plain. See you again soon.